I know. Oh, we can talk about all that. I just need to get this done. Okay. Hi, Maureen.
How are you?
I'm well. It's nice to see you. Hi, Dave. Lewis.
Hi, Dave. Hello, Kara.
Kara. Hi. How is everyone?
Good.
1, 2, 3. So I got a note from Colleen that she's not going to be able to attend, but Sonia said she would be. Oh, yay.
Hi,
So
Sonia.
we have a quorum. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Julie Bowden calling the special meeting of the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee to order on November 10th, 2020. Let's go ahead and do roll call. Monica, I'm going to start with you.
Monica Johnson, present.
Thank you.
Okay. Kara Frangipani, present.
Thank you. And Sonia? Hey, Sonia.
Hi.
Okay, there we go.
I got everything on.
Okay, go ahead and just state your name, please, so we can have you for the record.
Sonia Strom.
Thank you all very much. So thank you. This worked out. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get a quorum tonight. Colleen was originally going to attend, but she contacted me and said she doesn't feel well and won't be able to join us tonight. So I assume you all had a chance to read the email that I sent out regarding the draft letter to City Council for requesting an amendment. Okay, so I appreciate everybody getting back to me so quickly and responding. So basically, I sent you an overview that a couple people felt like it was a little complicated and didn't represent the task at hand. And just to remind everybody, our goal was to write a letter to City Council requesting an amendment to animal code that allowed code enforcement officers to impound animals other than dogs and cat who've been subject to cruelty or neglect. And that's really the only purpose of that email. And then basically to request City Council to agree with this and then forward it to the city attorney for the city attorney to look at the code. It's quite complicated. There are several different ways to approach it. And we talked about two. One was to change the definition of animals. The other one was to incorporate animals other than dogs and cats in the impoundment clause. And then there's a third option, which is to address animals other than dogs and cats. There's actually a paragraph for impoundment. But none of those unfortunately serve to protect animals other than dogs and cats who are subject to cruelty. So I don't think we want to write code in that sense, because really the city attorney is the expert when it comes to understanding the complexity of our code. And I think it's best for us to let that team look at the code and make a recommendation to City Council for what makes sense. I did send, we had one member draft a letter for us all to get started, and I received comments on that, but what I'd like to do is actually start with the draft of two other options, because there were so many comments that the draft that we had really didn't fit the bill in terms of raising the issue, just one issue, and then requesting the city attorney to write the code for us. So if it's okay with everybody else, I'd like to share my screen and look at those two different letters. And this is always interesting. Okay. All right. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing I had was that this should be addressed to these are my comments, by the way. It should be addressed to Inglewood City Council, and that I changed the subject line to requested change to municipal code as approved by the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee. I did share with you guys the letter that we sent last year about this time on modifying our snow ordinance from 12 hours to 24 hours, and that was successfully passed and rewritten. And as you know, that is now our ordinance for snow. So I'm going to scroll down to the first option that we have, and I'm just calling it alternative letter. And in both cases, we suggest that we include the actual code itself. I agree that it's long, but remember that, sorry, my dog just came bounding down. I think she finished her dinner. Did you finish? So the code is quite long, but remember, City Council doesn't know code like we do. So it's really helpful to have in front of them the part of the code that actually speaks to the challenge that our code enforcement officers had. And here it's just, do we want to paste all 17 sections? It's lengthy, I agree. But I did go ahead and put it in this is an example I put in. It's actually about a page. It's not too bad, but it does, I think, highlight the challenge that the code enforcement officers have. And then in terms of the next, so there's where we're asking them to look at the code, and then the second part is where we describe why we're recommending that it be amended. So I'm going to let you all read this. I haven't actually read it and compared it, but if you all want to read that, and then we can talk about it. Okay. 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 Any comments from anyone? Monica, you need unmute yourself.
It's just simple and to the point, and it addresses the singular issue that we were asked to address. And it gives the city council the authority to go forward or the attorney to go forward and change the language.
Okay.
And I also, the definition of domesticated animal makes sense to me. I noticed in the first edition that I received, it said something about people not being allowed to have livestock, but we know there are chickens and pigs and all kinds of things around town, and anything that you call your pet should be considered your pet. And I think, this gives enough latitude for them to make a code that our code enforcement officers can actually use.
Is that how it's actually written in the code right now? Cara, do you recall?
Yeah, the definition of domesticated animal, that was cut and paste.
Why did I think it was any animal other than dogs and cats? Wasn't that?
This is, I have 7.1A1 definitions pulled up, and domesticated animal is dog or cat or any other animal kept as household pet or as livestock. It's weird, they have all these defined terms for the code, but nowhere throughout the code are they actually capitalized.
Yeah.
So it's weird how the entire code is written. Normally in a legal document, if you have a defined term and it's used throughout the document, it would be capitalized to identify that this is a defined term. But that's not done anywhere in this code. Even for the definition of, dog or cat, everything is lowercase. So it's a little hard to follow, but it is a defined term.
Are we recommending in the paragraph that we change the definition, or we use the phrase domesticated animals instead of dogs and cats?
So my suggestion was just to replace the references to dogs and cats with domesticated animals, almost in every instance that it pops up. But I would look to Dave Lewis if you're on, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read the alternative letters, and if you think these will sort of get you where you need to be, or if you have any other suggestions.
I appreciate you taking a look at this and asking for my information. I think that might work. It's complicated for me to look at this and apply it to all the codes that are currently in place. That's kind of not my role, but I think that is a good starting point, or at least at a minimum, you're still alerting council to the concern that animal control cannot impound animals for animal and cruelty other than dogs and cats. And we're running into this more and more. And like I said, I gave you just one example. I wasn't prepared to really talk about it, but we've had pigs, we've had turkeys, we've had chickens, we've had pigeons, we've had snakes, we've had other reptiles. We have a multitude of cases where we've had rats. We've had rats. I know that sounds weird, but domesticated rodents, where we had to impound them in place and ask for voluntary compliance to check on their well-being for weeks. So it's not just the pig. Based on the pig, we've had several instances where our policy has changed because we stopped impounding animals.
Yeah, I think the most important, piece is, and like Julie mentioned early on, we're not writing the code. We're highlighting, the issue in the code that presents a problem for you to do your job. So if we at least highlight it and it goes off to the city's attorney, hopefully they read this and understand that there's an issue, and perhaps they can take a look at the definition throughout the code, and if that fits or doesn't fit, or leave it to the attorney. But at least we're highlighting the most severe issue right now that you're being presented with. So
my only concern is that we focus them on the definition, whereas there's many ways to rewrite this section so that, and I don't know that I understand all the reasons why dogs and cats were separated out from all other animals. But I think this is one solution. And that's where I'm hesitant is maybe leaving it even broader than that. And this was the one that I put together. My statement was, when I started looking at it, I realized that there are several different ways to address it. Like I mentioned, there's 3 different ways to approach it. And I just left it open and just saying that we see the main issue with the current code is the separate definitions and sections for dogs and cats and animals under 7-1 and kind of raising it to the higher level. And that 7-1A-9 is actually part of a bigger complex picture, and that we request a review and a proposed amendment by the city attorney. So would you all like to leave it more broad, or would you prefer to be specific with the definition? I'm okay with either. I think both of them accomplish the objective, which is to raise the issue and request a review.
Yeah, I'm fine with either version, Julie. So whatever the group is comfortable with.
Okay, Monica?
I think I'd like to know from code enforcement, what's your opinion? What do you think might get across the point that you initially were trying to get across to us? Because that's the whole point of this.
So I think they both serve the same purpose. I think the only person that's on this call other than myself that was in the meeting with the city attorney when she first came to talk to the group about not writing code, but to make a recommendation of, this is the concern we have, how do we address this kind of situation? I think being more broad is probably in the best interest, because then the city council may not be like, hey, we're pigeonholed into this one area versus hey, city attorney, can you take a look at this and let's talk about how do we accomplish this goal? What's the problem and how do we solve it?
Okay. What if we were to take this section of this and place it at the bottom of this, the letter up here, and put it here instead?
I think that works because it kind of combines the best of, yeah, that's like
And
the
so
icing
this-
on the cake. That's it.
So we could take that out, and then it would read like this.
So did you take out the second paragraph of the original,
Yes,
second one?
yes.
Hmm.
I'll put it
Can
back.
you put it back so I can just see it again? Thanks.
So maybe actually that this is the part that comes out, because I think this is important here to, like, we move this up here.
I think that works. Or, and just delete that like fourth paragraph.
Okay. Sorry. Don't
Are
look at
we-
my skills. Don't look at my skill set.
And
Sorry,
then,
my face is like in the camera. I'm like
yeah.
all screen.
Did you take out the definition of?
Well, we could leave
The
that.
definition was nice. I thought it just was a little reference and it comes from the code, right?
But it does, to me, it didn't, it actually contradicts the fact that there was, I thought there was a section in there.
And just for the record, we're only talking about animals that are being kept and cared for or not cared for by people
Right,
on Englewood properties.
yeah.
Okay, so, okay.
So so the definition of an animal, okay, here's, where was domesticated?
The other thing you could do is just point out that throughout the code, there are different definitions for what constitutes a domesticated animal or pet and what's permitted.
Okay,
You could just generally say that, because that's what we're trying to bring to their attention is inconsistencies. I don't know. Does anybody
Okay.
else have a thought about that?
there was, so I want to make sure. So domesticated animal, that is under 7-A-1A, okay. It kind of confuses me if we put it in there, because then it's like, well, that seems right. Where the issue is that we've separated out dogs and cats, or animals from dogs and cats. And if we include the definition, it looks like that it's not separated out. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, then, if we're gonna trust the employees of the city to do their job, then we can take it out and just tell them what the concern is and know that
Yeah.
they're gonna look through the code and,
Because there's several, they also define dog, they also define cat, and they also define animals. So because you go down lower, there's a section on animals, which is basically anything other than a dog and a cat.
okay,
So I would propose we take that out, just because there's so many definitions, and I think that's where the contradiction comes in, and putting it in here makes it appear that everything's okay, because it's like, well, it says both. So I propose we take that out. Are you guys okay with that?
Hand up there.
Sonia and Cara, are you all okay with that?
Yes.
Got it, okay. So then the finalized letter would look like this, and I'll fix the different fonts. Are you guys okay with that?
Oh, I was on mute. I'm so sorry. I was gonna say, you just need to add the section of the code under item 1.
Yeah. Right, okay,
Yeah. Otherwise, that looks great to me. So.
okay. Sonia and Monica, can you please weigh in?
Yeah, I think it looks great. I don't know if it would be good to write it in as domesticated animals and exotics, or, but I think we're,
Like that?
yes.
Then again, we're differentiating between animals. Officer Lewis, what is your opinion?
I wouldn't put exotics in there. I would just say animals because they can, what you're going to do, just like you did with the snow, is you're going to trigger a series of events. And these
Okay,
events are going to include the city attorney, staff. We're going to be asked to do presentations to council and study sessions where you all will be invited to discuss your intent. So just like the snow ordinance, just remember, this is just you telling that there's a problem, you'd like to see a change, and this is going to set off a series of events and then approvals that are going to go back to you all.
okay, well then let's just keep it as simple as possible then.
Okay,
I also wanted to make one additional recommendation, if I may.
yes,
In understanding the way city council reads things and views things, I almost would switch the two and make the recommendation first that this is your concern and then highlight the ordinance, because I think your concern is going to get lost in the ordinance.
so
I think
maybe
that's
put
a
it up
good idea.
here.
I second that.
Okay, great.
That's great.
All right, so it would go here. Perfect. That's, oh, that I see. That reads even better. Great. Is everyone okay with that?
It's great.
I've got some
Awesome.
formatting to do and stuff like that, but I'll fix that. Maureen, question for you. Once we vote on this, and then do I send it to you to put on a letterhead? Got it. Okay, so I won't even format it. I'll just let you do all that. You're better.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask for a vote. All those in favor of sending this recommendation, this draft letter, or this letter to City Council regarding an amendment to the animals code in order to allow for the impoundment of all animals under cruel and neglectful situations? Yes,
Are
Maureen.
you asking for a motion?
Yeah, sorry. May I have a motion to vote?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve. All those in favor, please raise your hand. I see 4 hands. That's unanimous. Okay, Maureen, I will correct a couple things and send this over to you. And then do I need to actually sign it, put my signature in there?
No, I don't, I'll just type it in.
Okay, cool. All right. Well,
All right.
at that, I'm going to call, oh yes, Dave.
I just wanted to take this moment to thank you all for taking your time out of your busy days to address this. This is one step closer to being a more inclusive animal city. And Colorado right now is ranked like 3rd or 4th in the country. And this is just showing the extra steps that you all recognize in the animal welfare industry in the world, and specifically in Inglewood, that we are a pet-friendly city and we want to make sure that our pets are as healthy as our families. So thank you.
Well, it feels really good to make a difference and produce something like this. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Dave, for bringing this issue to us and making it so easy, not easy, but making it possible for us to even make the recommendation and understand your challenges well enough to do so.
Thank
All
you.
right. Other
Yes,
than
thank you
that,
very much.
call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. Good night.
Good
Night.
night.
Guys.